no Wolf Tone set up. I don't think we've got anything planned for a wee kind of intro track, but we should be live everywhere and anywhere. But we were just getting together. We've just come off the back of this is Wednesday, the 2nd of May. We've just come off the back of the semi-final win, of course.
It's Tuesday.
Derby.
It's Tuesday.
What day
You
on? You must be nervous.
What did I say?
Tough game week.
What did I say? Wednesday. Oh, I'm already in Wednesday. That doesn't surprise me. Sorry, it's Tuesday. I beg your pardon.
What's the Euro Millions numbers?
Look, I got that far through Wednesday.
67, 18, 88.
I can see a bunch of them coming up for sure. But we're just getting together for this week's episode of the Sorare Supporters Club, Celtic's CSC, on the Celtics Are Here channel. And we were just chewing the bones over, guys, of the win at the weekend. A few different takes across the board here from all of us in a few different ways. I'm the one responsible for titling the stream, so we can come to that probably after I get your guys' thoughts on the game we just had there. Celtic won, Rangers nil, obviously, on the day, and through to the final. Wasn't really ever in doubt, was it?
O'Malley.
Pretty much.
It was. Yeah. I mean, Rangers were kind of as expected. They never really offered anything new, or that was a surprise to what we'd expected. I think I'd expected a lot more from Tillman, Morelos. I mean, Morelos, as much as he's a kind of joke figure amongst Celtic fans, I mean, to be honest, he was a threat a couple of seasons back, or even like 3 seasons back, 4 seasons back. But the recent games, he's been terrible. That game at the weekend was one of the worst I've ever seen from him in an old firm game. He was horrendous. So I mean, it didn't feel like they were really ever challenging us properly.
Quinny, can I read something out?
Go for it.
I'm not going to shame this person, but I think they've put this on a Rangers forum, and they've wrote, and listen to this. First of all, I know nothing about this new artificial intelligence malarkey that's hit us recently and been on the news. I'm a technophobe and I hold my hands up. I couldn't sleep last night, got up early doors, sat drinking coffee, waiting on the rest of the house to wake up. I was reading about this new AI stuff and I was wondering, could we be the first club to have a director of football who is made of AI? A lot of clubs use databases and computers to predict how a new signing will be. With our injury record, maybe this AI would know what players are far less likely to get injured and perform well. Am I onto something, or am I talking mince? Perhaps a club like Man City already use it and I'm behind the loop. Thought it was maybe worth a discussion. So, if that doesn't tell you how much that last win has affected our rival fan base, then yeah. Who is made of AI? It's one of the greatest things I've ever heard in my life. So, who knows, Quinny? It might be Ange Postecoglu up against Johnny Five next season to see who can get the League One. Madness.
That is incredible. I don't think the scoreline did it too much justice. Like you guys have kind of touched on it there as well. Like scoreline was quite tight. Obviously, only the one goal for us, but taking away, like hitting the post and missing a sitter, there was a game of very, very few chances where we're very much in control for most of it. It felt, and a lot has been made, and I think rightly so, of like the defensive display that we've seen from the team throughout. Carter-Vickers, the man mountain. There was one point in the game where he did get that bang, and you're like, oh, he's probably going to go off here. But he just gets up, dusts himself off, and he's like, nah, put me back in for round 2. And he was an absolute hero on the day, Big Vickers.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I mean, pretty much that game only contained, for Celtic anyway, one chance of any real value, and that was the Jota header. The rest of the game, I don't think there was anything, even just looking at pure expected goals, there was nothing really that glaring. And I can't remember, apart from the Sakala miss, I can't really remember anything that glaring for them either. So it was probably quite a low game in terms of expected goals, and it kind of felt like that because there was just It was very kind of scrappy, and I like that we just gave them a lot of the ball as well, and we're just comfortable with the game being 1-0.
Yeah.
That we could get them. And I've got to say before I'll pass over to Mark, but I was very disappointed with Haksabanovic again. Again, he has the perfect game, perfect state of the game for him to come on and have a positive effect. And just blutering the ball out when we're breaking away. He does it right in the initial transition phase. He moves away from the player, he dribbles. He was just play a simple ball out wide, and we had a great chance. He's blasting the ball at a play again. And that's 2 times now he's come into games where his skill set should be coming to the fore, and he should really be taking advantage of the state that Rangers were in. But I was disappointed with him. But apart from that, it was, another routine kind of coin flip win for us.
Yeah.
I actually thought that, I think we discussed Haksabanovic the last time, and I think it was Mark, you and me both were saying how generally unimpressed we've been by him, but I agree with you. I thought when he came on, kind of predictable. It's those areas where we're in, that final third where the other team's a little bit stretched, where he's got to make that pass. I think there was one from Moy, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And he takes not just an extra touch, he takes 2 or 3 extra touches and the move's dead. Moy, when he came on, as much as we all slagged him, I'm pretty sure, when his last performance previous, I thought he was exceptional. I actually thought he was really good. Probably just needed a bit of time to get his body back in shape because, he's not an athlete at the best of times, but he looked really impressive. I thought Hatate, people were saying, he's not done anything, whatever. I thought his movement was exceptional in the first half. He pulled into positions to allow other players to, get to run into other space and to find him with a nice pass, making the 1-2. But yeah, I think the other thing that is we're advancing with Old Firm Celtic Rangers game, whatever. We keep hearing about Rangers have Beale's figured Celtic out. I've heard lines like similar to that for some time now. He's not figured Celtic in the slightest. See, if you look at just the inverted fullbacks as the simple example of that, there's absolutely no response to that. I think the only thing that I noticed tactically that Beale done was he put Tillman up against McGregor, which was working, by the way, because McGregor was losing possession to Tillman, pretty frequently. But then he got taken off. But again, McGregor's going to receive the ball in more pressing areas and cause damage. But yeah, I just felt it's a good routine win, like you said, Sean. There wasn't any real obvious chances to make it 2. Rangers didn't look a threat. It kind of dwindled away at the end. If we again better decision making in the final third, we probably could have won the game a little bit more comfortably, but here we are.
Yeah, definitely good. I think the main thing now looking at the Celtic team is there was a point where you didn't really know what the best lineup was, but I think now looking at the team, you look at Maida, Jota and Furuhashi and you think don't really need to change that, and Hatate made a huge difference. Obviously he was never going to play 90 minutes, but he took the ball in areas and he kept possession or advanced the game, and you can see a difference straight away when he comes back into the team. It's just the type of midfielder I don't think we've got. But overall, defended really well, and it was good to get that clean sheet and stuff as well, because I feel as if there been a lot of games where we've just been leaking daft goals here and there and stuff, but it was a real kind of commanding performance. And it sounds daft saying when you're 1-0, but I wasn't really worried at any point. It was kind of if Rangers scored, then you could have played a bit differently, but we managed the game. I thought it was excellent, really solid overall, and Rangers fans must be pretty gutted today. Just a moment of quality, but it's a daft goal to give away from their point of view, where they just all stop and all of a sudden bang, Maida's on it. That quality, the moment comes.
I know, I think that's a good point you make, because Maeda's, not only is that just him being switched on and alert and aware, he also whips in an absolutely ridiculous ball.
Joey Ball. Aye.
So,
Which he doesn't get credited for very often.
without and obviously, I think people just, I think people just generally around the world aren't really very honest with themselves when it comes to how difficult football actually is, especially when you're sprinting at full pace like these guys, and they are 5 times as fast as the average, guy who's sitting on a couch shouting and screaming at the telly. Like, when he's whipping in those early balls with his weaker foot, he's obviously been asked to do that by Ange a lot, which is just get the ball in early, cross the face of goal. And it's going to happen that he's just going to skeg a few of them out and whatever. And when sentiment is low, that stuff is just everything, and he needs to get out the team. He's not good enough, blah, blah, blah. But that moment from Maida was a great moment, just to be aware. Just scooped it round. It was like his old Yokohama F. Marino days, where he was just scooped the ball round and just clipped it in. Perfect. And yeah, Maeda's just undroppable, because he's the catalyst for how we defend from the front. And I honestly is just probably my favourite player apart from my dad.
Sean, see about, I think it was just not that long before, maybe 5 minutes before that, just to take your point. Maeda's got the ball on the left, and he's played a cross in with his left foot. I can't remember who landed that. I think it was O'Reilly. I might be wrong. It was a decent enough position, but the chance dwindled away. But it was a really good ball in.
I think it was Jota actually miscontrolled it.
Yes, it was Jota miscontrolled. Yep.
But the quality of that ball in, again, whipped in first time, left foot, and then that ball in, the movement, the reaction, but then the quality, again, with his right foot is nuts. I mean, you go back to being that two-footed, it's mad. He was, like you say, just absolutely undroppable, in my opinion.
And because of the way Celtic play, there's going to be times when people just do extraordinarily bad-looking things, like just slice the ball out of play or throw in a really bad cross or whatever. But, in a game like that, where you needed that moment, we needed that kind of moment to capitalise. And as soon as you get 1-0 ahead in that game, it's just gold dust, because you can decide what you want to do at halftime. You can decide, right, okay, we're 1-0 up. We're now in control of this game. Do we bring on Iwata? Do we go for a second? Do we, you've earned the right to kind of dictate how the game goes strategically. A bit like in Formula One, with the undercut with the pit stops and stuff. If you've got the lead, you dictate the strategy. And I liked that we managed to do that, just because he was switched on and had so much quality with that cross. And Jota was, I think me and my friend were actually saying some expletives at the television a couple of minutes before Jota scored, because he wasn't having the best of games, actually. But he was there in another iconic moment and another win. And pretty much, I don't want to be disrespectful to Inverness, but I watched 45 minutes of that game against Falkirk, and this isn't going to be competitive in the slightest, unfortunately, because I'd like to see a good final, but this is just going to be Celtic. How many does Celtic want to get off that Inverness team? So that was pretty much the final. And Carter-Vickers can rest up, and Kobayashi can get some game time.
Ralston, you're going to say rest in peace?
Well, maybe he can. And yeah, Ralston coming into the fore as well after the last episode where we spent 15 minutes talking about him. Looks like he's coming back. And yeah, it's kind of an interesting last 5-6 games now for Celtic to see what they do in the world of Sorare, particularly, to see who's going to play. It's going to be a lot of opportunity with lower priced cards and things, and guys who should be getting massive scores starting for Celtic.
I think it's a good point, like in terms of Sorare, because ultimately that's, despite our Celtic love, also brings us together. Is you look at Daizen Maeda's scores in Sorare, and you can imagine that's why his price gets driven down. I don't know what his current prices are, but I'm going to imagine that they're absolutely disgusting. But his scores sometimes just go into really dark areas, like 20s and 30s, and like really horrible, uncomfortable SO5 scores. But that's because he's getting on the end of crosses that he just has no right getting on the end of at times.
Yeah.
And rather than just leaving that ball and letting it go out, he tries to knock it towards goal and
Totally,
boom, big
yeah.
chance missed.
Yeah.
And he's getting hit with them all the time. But as you can see from some of the scores there, he'll get games where he'll just bang. I mean, and the thing is that I don't know if you're able to go back, Quinny, to the old Yokohama days. I know that's going back really far, but I remember watching him at Yokohama, and
that's that patch there, Quinny.
He was scoring hat tricks and stuff like that, and it was just absurd. Like, yeah, that game there, I watched that game. The one against Oita.
Yeah, the Shintakage, the slaying.
Yeah, it wasn't good for
Koide was playing that day as well.
But yeah, that version of Maeda was just obscenely clinical. But the whole team were kind of almost built around him, is despite the fact he's playing on.
When you see that game 5-3, going to zoom up a wee bit, scroll up the way. The 5-3, that game I watched that live. That was insane. 5-3 Kashima Antlers beat Yokohama. It was just that wasn't too long after. That wasn't too long after we actually got Postecoglu, and I remember watching that game going, it was mental. The high line they were basically playing like Thiago Martins, who's now at New York City FC, and Hatanaka. They were like at the halfway line, just standing still. It was the highest line I've ever seen a team play. Kida was playing that game as well, and Kashima were just running through them. Shomadoi scored. That's
mental. Shomadoi, who scored a hat trick there, scored 2 at the weekend. Who's been
it's funny. You look at that team, because obviously people wouldn't have followed the J League back at this point. But I mean, if you look at the players on the pitch, you've got John Amano, Tomoki Awata's not even starting. You've got Ryuta Koike, who was probably the best right back in the league last year or the year before. It was unbelievable. Ayase Ueda is on the bench for. I mean, this is mental. Like some of the best players in the J League and that have been exported were just on the bench that day a year ago. A couple of years ago. It's pretty insane.
Yeah, I see. Obviously, we go machine in Belgium now.
Oh, he's been absolutely unbelievable. He was rumoured to be interested in coming to Celtic, but I don't think he Ayase quite fit as well as a Cho or an O. I actually think they're better fits. Ueda's a little bit more kind of, I don't know. He's not that suitable for our style, but
I think the thing on that point though is just like there are going to be games, as you see the reliance on Maida becoming far more critical for the team, because as Sean said, he's now an instant pick, and I think even the most hardest Maida critic out there of Celtic fans, who there are still some bizarrely, but I don't know, we can't please them all. There's going to be games where Maeda is absolutely going to bang. Some of them, I actually think at Tynecastle this coming weekend is a perfect opportunity for him, because Hearts are going to have to come at us, and they're going to leave huge spaces. They've been struggling. I don't know if we're jumping ahead with that there, but I do think that's a perfect game for Maeda.
Yeah. It's been dead annoying as well to see the clean sheet thing, as I mentioned earlier, but like clean sheet, Hearts away in the cup, clean sheet against Rangers, and then these games where you're like beat St Mirren 5-1 and stuff, and obviously that's a killer for if you're playing stacks on SO5 obviously and Sorare, so it'd kind of be good to actually just have a good solid game and have no kind of chaos, penalties or daft goals outside the box or whatever, and just actually like put a score together. Like and Kobayashi's are averaging 44 and Ralston's averaging 47.
Yeah,
they're going to be class for
Iwata 43.
Yeah.
O must be low as well.
O's in the 30s, I think.
Yeah, that's.
I remember rightly.
he's getting a lot of sub appearances, isn't he? So
Yeah.
let's see if I can find them.
Yeah. No, I was looking at Kobayashi and
Iwata,
but I don't think Iwata's going to play, actually. I think it's going to be Hatate and maybe McGregor and Moy. But
you see, we've got Vata, Summers, Johnson's got a new Celtic card, and Haksabanovic is a forward.
I seen that
it kind of makes sense for Haksabanovic, but it actually makes his card more sensible to me to buy, because you are just hoping he gets a decisive in the last 30 minutes of a game.
I'd seen you'd got, was it the one of 1,000 Haksabanovic?
Yeah, I bought the one at 100 as well.
Yeah. Vata looks like a phenomenal prospect.
Looks in good shape. He looks very fit and athletic. He looks like a really good build.
Oh, he's got a card, and it's a rookie. Oh, that's nice.
That looks nice.
That's nice, isn't it?
1 out of 1,000 went for like 100.
Nerd alert.
What an absolute shock to see McBride.
Oh, look, there's McBride.
Why has he got a little 11 Sports Media shirt?
Because he's a B team picture, I think. And it's like, so it won't have a gambling company on it or whatever. Is that a bet we still have, isn't it? But that'll be a B team picture. That's what it'll be.
Wait, so somebody who bought? Somebody bought. Geez, so 124 quid. Somebody got the first Rocco Vata Limited. I hate to break it to you, my man, but
they're Greece.
They're Greece.
That's my fault, because
cash to burn.
I
loves him selling a rookie.
I set one of those highest bid things, so I put it in as 100, thinking, right, I'm just going to get him for like 30 quid or whatever, but I'm not bothered, and somebody outbid me. I honestly didn't think it would go anywhere near that. It was just a case of like,
I think their Greece is clearly trying to, I don't know what he's trying to do. Maybe he's trying to wash some money or something like that, because he seems to have everyone that's ever played football ever on his books, including
that's the one I want.
Messi, Salah. Cards on sale, so that's why you're missing the cards.
He's got look, go to his squads. He's got 417 special edition players, and he's got this guy's an.
You see Lowell ever getting back in?
I don't know, but I want a card of him.
Who's Lowell? The young guy, the Celtic.
Yeah,
nothing to do with Peter. But he definitely, my sense of him is that he's going to be one of those guys that gets put out on loan and then eventually stays away. He looks like a good enough player, but I'm not sure he's got enough in him to stake a claim.
There's a surprise.
That's
good. He's a forward card as well.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. It actually makes his card sensible now, because he was never a midfielder.
Yeah. I think the reason I got it as well is because, all right, love Furuhashi and stuff, but he never does any form of base, so I quite like having a different option there, particularly for the end of the season. You know, like with these games
sense.
where going to get time, and you know,
Quinny, go to who should be our new left-sided centre back. Go to Mika Marmol. Go to Mika Marmol, Andorra FC. Check out this guy. He's absolutely honest. He was our player spotlight on Sorare Odyssey podcast. You can listen to that, guys, if you want. Go look at his recent scores. He's absolutely, what a delight of a player.
This is the second division of Spain, but so pinch us all.
I hate to break it to you, but St Johnston are definitely not getting anything off at Ibar, and that's a fact.
To be fair, we took Matt O'Reilly off of MK Dons straight into a starting.
Seriously, Quinny, that guy Mika Marmol is perfect for us.
Give him a follow
domestically. Perfect for us domestically. Just so good at progressing the ball. Maybe not as good at Julian as Starfelt or Carter-Vickers, but can always get better at that.
One thing I wanted to just we have kind of moved away from the game, right? But we've got a lot of comments coming in across Facebook and YouTube that are still referencing the game at the weekend. So one thing I wanted to say, if anyone's wondering about the title, right? Because I said it to at least one of these before we came on, but I felt for the game, we were talking, there was some comments about Beale and all the rest of it going around, but I really felt that this game was a mugging off from Ange, to Rangers, in terms of like before the game, like I managed to get Celtic here. We got invited into the pre-match thing, and I asked him, what was the team that he picks for this game? Is it the best 11 or is it the best team for the Old Firm? And he said, in normal Ange fashion, it's no different to any other game. We do the same thing we do all the time and all the rest of it. And, everything we were talking about earlier with the first goal going in. I think one thing that's been missed with the first goal, by the way, is that was probably the first time in the match where Jota and Maida had swapped wings, I think, because I think Jota had spent the majority of the game on the right and Daizen on the left at that point,
Yeah.
So
The old Neil Lennon wing swap.
But for us at 60 minutes, 65 minutes, whatever the time was, to take off our best three players, it only realistically being 1-0 up in a semi-final against them in a derby, the derby that is, I just think it's an absolute. I thought anyway when it happened, I was like, wow, this is risky. Obviously, it's paid off, so it's like it is an absolute. It doesn't matter if we're playing Rangers in a semi-final, we're at home to Aberdeen, we're away to St Mirren. This is the strategy, this is the philosophy, this is the tactics, and we're going to do it all the time, and it was just an absolute. That's the way I felt anyway. And then with that in my mind, sorry if I can just finish this. With that in my mind, I don't know if he's caught this right, but see when the final whistle went and they go and do the handshake with one another, Beale and Ange, there was the wee kind of handshake, and then straight away he didn't even take a pace. Straight away he's round to the fans, and you can hear it coming out of his mouth. He's like, yes, just right in earshot of him, because it's just like. Not even what it's not even about celebrating in front of you or your fans and all that. It's all about us. It's all about our win. It's all about the fans. It's all about the everything that's kind of going here at the moment. And that was kind of one big thing I took away from the game that I wanted to just throw out there.
I think the thing is just to follow on that point, because I agree with you. I think that ultimately there's been this obsession with talking to the media about what they're going to do. And it seems to have, there's a scene in the Herald that they're playing almost like, a bingo with things that Rangers players or ex-players or fans or whatever are going to say before and after games. That they're coming for Celtic and all that stuff. But I think the last time I spoke about that guy, Neil Banfield, who I recognised his name actually, and I went and checked. He was one of the coaches.
He's a football manager guy.
It was Football Manager that I'd recognised. He was a coach at Arsenal. Anyway, he'd said something that like Ange had made a wee snidey mark, or whatever. But I'd seen that in the media, someone had asked Ange about that guy's comments and stuff like that, and Ange had just said, "I don't care." Pretty much as blunt as "I don't care." Yeah. And I think there's probably that element where, to the media, he's saying that stuff, but I think behind closed doors, he's probably a bit pissed off with that and just like, this is getting a bit tiring, guys. You just keep talking about the games, really with that kind of, battle fever type mentality, grow up. Ultimately, whenever it comes to the big games, you don't have the mentality or the actual ability to win the matches. And that's ultimately what matters. I think you're riding off the back of one cup win and a league win in a long, long, long time. And, Celtic are racking up trebles and quadruple trebles. I think at that point you would just shut up.
Yeah. For sure.
Fair point. We've not shut up now, have we?
No, not at all. I was quite surprised. I think probably the last thing I'd probably say, just to move away from the semi-final for the last time, because I'm quite eager to talk about the final stage of the season and kind of get stuck into it. But we did get a lot of comments kind of referencing the game and but particularly a good bit of Rangers bashing, which I don't mind personally, stuff because their players have went missing time and time again, and you guys have kind of touched on it already, but the gap, as it were, we're about. It feels like with that performance we put on today, and I don't think we spoke about it previously, guys. Hatate not playing for the last couple of weeks, having a grade, whatever it was, hamstring, whatever it was, getting thrown into this game at the coalface, and Hatate was in the forward line pressing for the first half. He was getting right in amongst it, chasing everything down, and he was real energy up there. It's we are moving past this Scottish domestic level now, and we're finally moving into that we're a European outfit at least.
We do that kind of 4-4-2. It was definitely out of possession. Definitely felt like there was like a little front three thing going on.
Yep.
Particularly at the start of the game, and Hatate was pushed right up. So we had like a little three that was just protecting the front, the first kind of phase of them, try to get out, which was great, actually. It's cool to see a wee variation, something that they clearly worked on. And it definitely worked for that first chunk of the game, for sure. But I would say, Quinny, it's people need to also be realistic and not get too carried away, because Rangers aren't really in the context of a league campaign. Rangers aren't as far away as you think, and the reason they're not as far away as you think is because the other teams in the league are simply very far away from their ability. So, like Celtic are obviously the better team over the season, but a small bit of negative variance, a few bad things go your way, a couple of bad injuries, and honestly, leagues are a lot closer than they feel, is basically what I'm trying to say. And there's, all the kind of data to prove that. And it does take these little negative things to really swing. It's like an election as well. Just there's a big swing on one negative thing can really impact it. So I think it's always be mindful. It's great. We keep winning. We're not, we didn't blow them away in that day, but we got the right amount of, we went about the game properly and we did what we need to do to get the win, but we need to keep pressing on and we need to keep improving, optimising every position we can just to think about Europe. That's the goal. That's the objective. We want to have another Seville. We want to have another Lisbon. As silly as that seems, that should be the focus. Because if you do that, the domestic stuff will take care of itself. And it's up to us as fans and as fans of, on an even deeper level with Sorare and players around the world that we all watch, to keep pushing the club to go back to those days where Europe was a target. And it's not just a bonus, because it shouldn't be. And if we start thinking that team a couple of miles away from me is the benchmark, and that's it, just beating them is good enough, they'll quickly catch back up with us like that, because it doesn't take long. And we've seen it when we blew 10 in a row. We've seen how easy it is to just get so complacent with this stuff. And like I mentioned at the start, the AI guy, they might get that AI director of football, the guy that's made the AI, and we'll be back to square one.
Oh, no.
But as things stand, enjoy it. It's great. I can't see this trend going any differently anytime soon. But just knowing how football is, I mean, a few bad decisions and Ange leaving or something like that, we'd have to do a massive rebuild. So enjoy it while we can, and I'm sure it will continue for a while. But yeah, they're not as bad as what we think they are and feel they are. Their finances probably are, but that's a different matter.
True that. I've seen Souness is out and again in the paper trying to beg us to share a stadium with them, to put Celtic and Rangers into 100,000 seater, because they can't afford it, obviously, or all the other stuff that's been going on with that, as per usual.
Right.
He says the most crazy stuff. Like, really, I mean, for a guy who seems to pride himself on being the guy that put up the Queen in the dressing room, the photo of the Queen, I don't really know what kind of level of cooperation that sensibly he could ever expect from Celtic. Like, he's just a maniac.
True that. Well, we'll be seeing them again before the season finishes. We're now moving into like the post-split period. We've also got the final with Inverness at the very last game of the season, 2nd of June. I think you guys were telling me before we come on. But we've got everyone in the top 5 to play one more time over. We've got 2 home fixtures: St Mirren, I think that's the second game in, and then Aberdeen, which is the last league game itself. With away games at Ibrox, Easter Road, and Tynecastle, which is the first game we've got as well.
Yeah.
We know Vickers is now, he's now MIA. We'll see him in the new season. Great season, big man. Thanks for your service and enjoy it. And we probably won't see Alistair Johnston.
Off the rack by the sound of it. They serve.
How's he off
there? Thank you for your service, Mr.
Thank you for your
Vickers.
service this season. Stay
Mind
shift, big man.
What was that video game? The one that, what do you call it? The Metal Gear Solid, that was it. Thanks for your service.
Yeah. Press X to pay respect. to
That's it, exactly.
Carter-Vickers.
And it doesn't sound like we'll see Alistair Johnston yet either, because Ralston, McBride's pal, was out on Instagram Instagramming or something, saying see you in the final. So depending on how you want to read into that, maybe Ralston is going to play.
Do we know what the
rest of the
injury
season.
is?
I don't.
It's a bad. Well, he was on crutches, so it's
A big
got to
dirty
be.
boot on, so
Yeah, but
Might be
Ange
a-
was saying he was kind of dancing about on the crutches as well, which I don't know what he read into that, if that's just
Yeah.
a daft move
balancing
from
on
him.
his left leg, but wasn't he? So the other leg was up in the air with the
Yeah, he was in crutches, bouncing about, but he wasn't putting any weight on it. I'm watching it right now. He was hopping.
He's a
Yeah.
madman.
It was a big cast thing he's got on. Good day. I don't
Yeah,
think he'll
big
be
boot.
back. He's not going to be back for this weekend, Mark, for sure.
No.
Hitati, I think, or Kobayashi's trying to tell him to calm down.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
what's
just
that
happy.
like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ralston's quite solid though, wasn't he? I mean, he came on after not playing for that long. Like he came on and like did the job. So even really be concerned about. Well, obviously League's won, and you should win the final. But it'd be good to see other guys getting a chance as well. Like, you know, Ralston's never really let Celtic down, I don't think. And he's had some important moments as well. If you look at his
Definitely.
goals and assist record, or the goal at Ross County, that was last season.
So that game at the weekend that's coming up, Mark, just to take that point, like away at Tynecastle, I think that's going to be good for him, because different to the game where it was the last home game at Celtic Park with all the expectations there, and Ralston plays a pass wrong and the fans are on his back. I think the expectation's going to be Hearts looking for some revenge for the normal routine doings that we give them. It's going to play into Ralston's hands, because he wants a physical dueling game where he's going to, probably be up against Barry Mackay, just smashing into him pretty much for 90 minutes, just to make him feel better.
Just to make you feel better. Yeah, Hearts have got the 4th worst XG against in the league, so there's going to be goals in this game. We've got the best XG, obviously.
We Stevie Naismith in the dugout, does that make a difference?
Aye. Oh, now that I know that, aye, that's us. We're in trouble now.
What's a lot of Hearts games? I mean, I think the thing is like they've clearly got good players. I mean, defensively, they've took Halkett's been injured, bad injury. Obviously, Gordon's got a pretty horror injury. They've Kingsley, who's been injured, who was not so long ago in the Scotland team. They've changed between playing a 3 and a 4 at times. They've rotated the guys in the 3. They've played a kind of weird system where they've had Cochrane playing as an overlapping full back from a central defender in a 3, to then moving him to left wing back, to then putting Kingsley there. So they've had this whole season of where they've been winning routinely for that wee spell between kind of late December through, I think it was the end of January, and then just dip pretty much from then on in to where we are. But they comfortably smashed Ross County. I don't know if that's much of a yardstick for to talk about, but I think this game they won't want to play us. They'll not be happy to play us in the weekend, because I think they'll know that we're coming full of confidence. It should be a routine victory. I can't see Hearts getting anything out of that. I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet. I think they'll get a goal.
Shankland factor, isn't it? Shankland and Ginnelly, one of them will do something there.
Ginnelly was, I mean, I said this the other day in our podcast that I think Ginnelly, if he signs for next season, is one of the must-have players on Sorare, because he's improved so much for Hearts. It has been incredible how much he's improved, because at the start of the season he wasn't even starting games, he was just a sub. And I would fancy that he'll get chances. I mean, even in that last game at Celtic Park, he peeled away at the back post with that header, made space for himself, done well. Shankland's had an absolute super season. So I think the two of them are always good for a goal. Sometimes you do switch off, give away, like Van Veen in the last match. at Celtic Park. But defensively, Hearts are a complete mess. They've got good. That's the thing. They've got good players in there. They've got that Kyle Rose, the guy who's pretty much started. He's a nailed on starter for Australia. Went to the World Cup, but the other two guys I'm not at Civic, and they've got that. Is it Hill, the new guy they've got from some team down south? Is it James Hill? So they've. But anyway, they look really dodgy at the back. I'd fancy Kyogo to get in there and score. I'd fancy Jota. I'd fancy Maida. I'd fancy us to score 2-3 goals against them. But the defender cards, do you know what? I'd be comfortable with the defender cards going forward. But defensively, I would be concerned about, losing the clean sheet plus any potential goals that they score. But yeah, generally it's a good game for the guys that we've spoke about. I think it's a good game potentially for Ralston if he can just win the duels and get up the pitch, maybe even get into some attacking positions.
And because the cap cost of Kobayashi and all those guys are so low, it's just a freebie. It's a free roll, because those guys in a cap 220, like you shouldn't really have a cap 220 player that's got the scoring capacity of a Kobayashi starting for a team like Celtic. So you're kind of, it's a bit of a cheat code if you manage to get Kobayashi starting in that game, and Iwata and all these guys that are around 40 starting this game. It's gold dust. Because Kobayashi, I think every time he plays for Celtic, I might be wrong, but it's like getting 60s and just so many passes, and there is always a chance you get a clean sheet as well. He came on against Hibs, only got 25 there, but he got 62 against Kilmarnock. So, see, sometimes as well in Sorare, like you just overthink it. Sometimes I just put see if that Dinamo Zagreb or away to Hajduk Split. I just think, do you know what? See if you're Dinamo Zagreb and you're the best team in the league, you should be going there and getting a clean sheet and playing a really good defensive performance. Like sometimes in Sorare, you look and search to try to find the safest clean sheet. Sometimes you just need to actually go, do you know what? You're Livakovic, you're the Croatian number one. You've got the best defence in the league. Go away to the second best team and get a clean sheet. And I think the same as Celtic sometimes. I just think, do you know what? Take your opportunities and just do it. And sometimes that can happen in Sorare. And sometimes, for example, Rennes were playing Angers at the weekend, and Rennes had a 60% clean sheet chance. He conceded 3 goals. It was just a complete defensive calamity. So sometimes it's worth, even if it's low cap cost guys and it's just a free roll and they're playing a tough fixture, go for it. See if you can get a big score, because they should have a lot of pressure. Should be a lot of duels to win. Should be a lot of action at Tynecastle for those defenders. So Ralston, duels, Kobayashi. If Iwata plays, he should be getting lots of duels and a lot of action and a lot of interceptions, you would think. So there's scope for big scores in that game for sure.
Do you know what I think? I think the real, the important area for us to win the battles and where the big scores really can be got, good potential for Greg Taylor in here, is that if you look at Hearts, they've been playing the last bunch of games they've been playing a 4-2-3-1, and prior to that it was a 3-4-3. But in the 4-2-3-1, Cammy Devlin pretty much is, when fit, is their nailed on starter in there. They've got Peter Harron, who's came back. He was out injured for quite some time. Decent enough player at SPL level. But Andy Halliday has been known to be playing in there alongside them, or that guy Keo. I'm not even going to attempt that surname. Is it Keo Mortzioglu? Who's a decent enough player. He was playing, I think it was at Heracles in the Dutch league and some German team. But I think when you've got two what are ultimately ball-playing midfielders in that position, because obviously Snodgrass is away, Grant is going to be put in a more forward area. I think the potential is in there to dispossess them, or if they're caught going forward, which Devlin does, as you can see, pops up with the assist there. I think there's a good opportunity to, have, whether it's O'Reilly, Hatate, McGregor, or possibly Moy. I guess it would be Moy or O'Reilly. I think that looking down at Civic, at Rolls, with Atkinson, because I think Michael Smith's injured still for Hearts, and Cochrane, or potentially Kingsley. I would imagine it will be Cochrane will play. I think we can cause him serious damage there, and if Greg Taylor comes in, plays inverted, and takes the space that I would imagine Devlin will vacate if he's coming, pushing up the pitch, it could be huge score for Greg Taylor in there.
Am I right in saying Abada's completely out? No, is he playing? Is he in contention at all?
Ange said before the semi-final that Abada, Jota and Rio all trained all week. Obviously, we didn't see Abada, so...
But then Abada just didn't... Yeah, he wasn't in the
he
squad.
wasn't even on the bench or anything.
Ange said that he got a knock in training the day before.
Oh, did he? I didn't catch that.
So if that's the case, then you'll probably see a Vata come on in that game, and it'll be Maeda, Kyogo. You might even see O starting the game. Because I don't see Kyogo going for any records or anything like that. I don't really, and there's plenty of time.
I don't think the manager will take any chances. No, it's not even take any chances, but I don't think he'll take the foot off the gas until it's officially won. If that makes sense. I will say the same team.
Have you seen O? I mean, that O is not taking the foot off the gas. I mean, O is an absolute machine. I mean, he's surely...
but the manager's very firm in what he thinks the best 11 is, I think, at this point. I think he'll play the... Obviously, we know the changes to the defence, but I think beyond that, we'll see the same team that started last weekend. I think
probably, but there is going to be a point, surely, that O gets a start.
Well, that was one of the things I had in my notes, is in this split, where would you see O getting a start? There's only 1 week where the fixtures kind of pile up a little bit, and it's towards the end. We've got a midweek in there. Because surely he's got to get a start before the season finishes.
He definitely will. I don't think that there's. I don't think there's any point in not giving him a start. It's not like we're not going to win the league. I think he'll, as you say, that's probably a good shout actually. When there is congested fixtures, there's a midweek game. I would say the easiest game to start them would be at home to St Mirren, and I'm not pinpointing them thinking that they are the whipping boys, but certainly they would be the easiest fixture on paper out of the post-split fixtures.
Because if you can time that well, Mark, if you can time that O's starting game well, then you're onto something, because that Cap 220 would be lovely.
The last game he started was Aberdeen at home. We have Aberdeen at home last game of the season.
I was going to say as well, Quinny, was it last year? Celtic had won the league, and I know that there was no cup final, so it's a bit different. But I was like, I'm going to play like Bain, or I can't remember who was available, or all these players, and they just come out and played like Vickers and Starfelt and stuff. So I think like Hearts away will go strong. Rangers away, I think he'll still obviously go really strong. Then I think he'll rotate against St Mirren and Hibs, and then I think against Aberdeen he'll probably go stronger than you think, because it's flag day. So it's basically getting the trophy day. So I think he'll probably start quite strong and then just rotate guys off, and then you're into the cup final. But there'll definitely be room for guys to play, but you've still got to win the league. And then obviously Rangers away, I just don't see him want to give away that momentum and go and change 4 or 5 guys and lose a game. I think he'll want to stay unbeaten against Rangers, and then he'll just, I think then you could pick anybody that's going to play, I think, but because there's nothing to play for at that point against St Mirren at home, so you'd probably expecting like to be treated like a kind of cup game, like the Morton game or whatever, which just plays like loads of random guys, but a good chance to get a chance to see other guys that have not really been playing as much at that point as well. And we've looked really good when he came on too, so that'd be a perfect chance to even give him a start or something, or maybe give Abada some games to see if he's in contention for the final. Get some fitness back up or whatever.
Yeah, it's a good shout.
Or maybe bring James Forrest back from the dead. Get him on a pitch.
Was he alive?
Wait, Jimmy's all right. He's just a wee bit injured, does he
I've
know?
seen him, Mark. Me and you've seen him about 3 times.
Oh, that's right,
recently, on the street.
I think a
Weird.
voice for her.
I would not be surprised when Iota if you could just find that in the back of the gallery somewhere, McBride.
I'm sure I did, but I think it was like 40 quid or something. I thought I'm just going to buy him because what if we get a few people injured and all of a sudden this guy's actually. I did 47.
And it is James Forrest at the end of the day.
Yeah. What is he still? What, 31 now?
Yeah, something like that. He's
Yeah.
He's only a year into a fresh contract as well. He's got plenty of time at the hoops left, it would seem. But on players playing and stuff like that, we seem pretty set on with the defence, like, you know, in terms of like Yuki's going to come in and play these final 5 games. Ralston's probably going to play a lot of them, if not all of them. What do we, McBride, you've kind of touched on it there with the goalkeepers. We reckon Joe Hart will play every game. What about Callum McGregor? Do you reckon he will play every game as well in this final run-in?
Well, I mean, Sygris has been injured, hasn't he? So he's not been on the bench. So I don't know if he'll throw Bain in. He's played Sygris, obviously, in a lot of cup games earlier on in the season when he was fit. So I don't know if he just sees that he would be the kind of natural guy to come in if Hart get injured. That's going to be an interesting one, I think. Sygris wasn't on the bench again, but I think he's back in training. So I think he'll probably go Hart against Hearts and Rangers, and then you might just see some mad random rotation at that point. It could be anybody coming in. What do you think? Fullback wise, I mean, obviously Taylor and McGregor have had a lot of minutes, so you'd have to imagine like coming into like St Mirren at home and Hibs away and stuff, you'd probably try and get a rest into the guys before the final comes. I mean, there are some good gaps. It's not like you're playing like midweek all the time or whatever. You've those 3 games in a week, then you're going to be talking about mega rotation the last 3 games, I think, aren't you?
See, the thing is, like there's. I mean, it's not obviously not good that Carter-Vickers is out because his car's worth a fortune, and Alistair Johnston. The thing is, though, is I'm sure like you guys are similar to me. You've already got Ralstons and the Kobayashis in there anyway. So, but there's a good thing that there's a predictability about the guys who definitely will play in those last 5 games. We know Yuki's going to play 5. There's a fair chance Ralston will play 5. I take your point. I think Taylor probably will get rotated 1 or 2 of them. I think McGregor will play them all, personally. I think Ange generally hasn't rotated McGregor ever, really. I can't really remember a game where he has. He probably has, by the way. I just can't recall it. I would imagine McGregor, at worst, will be brought off early in a couple of games. I think McGregor just loves playing every minute of every game, and he just doesn't take him off. I think we've got to be mindful that McGregor's 29 now. 29. He's coming up for 30. He can't do that, for many, many years, but he's still, you look in the continent, like watching the Ghent and slightly different position in Belgium. They've got that Sven Comes is 35 years old, plays pretty much every minute, very seldom taking off. I think with the engine that McGregor's got, there isn't, if he wants to play every game, I think Ange will play him every game. So, yeah, pretty much.
Played all the cup games as well, McGregor as well. I remember it's a game we're playing, was put out last random team and McGregor's still in the middle. I think it's just that kind of leadership thing there as well, where it's just like just keep him in there. But he manages games. He doesn't maybe press the ball as much as Maida and stuff. You see that he's actually managing his energy through the games. He must be capable of doing it without taking as much out of himself as the 2 fullbacks or the guys who are playing in the wings, because they're maybe running more. But I think he probably will. Maybe like the St Mirren home game or maybe the Hibs away game or something. Maybe he'll start him on the bench and maybe try a Wata. But I think McGregor will probably play 4 out of 5 for the start.
Yeah, I think you'll see definitely, and I reckon Awata is one guy. I think Awata has to get game time in this last 5 games. I think he's earned it. the $1 million question is who comes out. I don't know. I think in the next game he's going to play Hatate, and it'll be Moy or O'Reilly. The Old Firm game, probably the same. The St Mirren game, I would say I would fully expect Awata to start. And then those last 3 games, I wouldn't be surprised if Awata started those last 3.
Yeah. The other interesting thing is his new card's a mid card as well, so the old ones are defender cards. So obviously a wee bit of a difference in the scoring, and also Hatate's defender card's really, really good at getting that clean sheet, so you'll not notice big a difference with the scores just now because Celtic have not been keeping as many clean sheets, but I think the old Awata defender card will be a pretty nice one to have. It's still only a couple of quid and a limited, so that's maybe something to pick up for the Awata ones, because obviously that's like Johnston, Hatate, Awata. There's loads of different guys that have got like varying position cards and stuff there now as well, which is quite interesting. So yeah,
Haksabanovic as well.
Haksabanovic mid and forward. Hatate's got every position. Awata's now.
Hatate's due a goalkeeper card at that
rate. Johnson's obviously got a defender card now as well. Obviously, I think he's only super rare. He's only 2 super rares for Montreal were mid cards, and now they're minting defender super rare cards.
I've seen that there too.
So,
Lass looks much better as a defender card, but he's not wearing hoops in any defender cards, which is a pain in the bum. But
just buy a limited mid card for like 4 quid and satisfy your urges, and then buy the best one for the
super glue it on top of the super rare one. Just to make it look better.
60 quid. I mean, like 60 quid. I mean, that's not much more than a threshold. Like honestly, like rares are just so cheap at the moment. Like that's mega cheap. I mean, this guy could be playing the majority. He's only 26 as well, and he only costs just over 1 threshold one. Like that's just so cheap. It's unbelievable. You just buy somebody like that and just leave him in your gallery. You're not like just use them whenever you can use them. Like, it's a brilliant price, I think.
I think he's got a realistic chance of being a starter next season as well.
Yeah.
Will he be starter? Will he?
Yep. Will he be starter? Sure, we'll be getting asked that.
Well, I was definitely thinking on this as well, because like Iwata, similar to O, like he should get a start before the season goes, because I think Moy was in this bandwagon where Moy was in good form and then get dropped for a derby for O'Reilly, and O'Reilly wasn't really that great in that game, in actual fact. And Iwata was kind of similar in this case, where he was in good form and then get dropped for Rio ahead of a derby, for really no kind of fault of his own performances or whatever. So it will be interesting to see how the manager keeps all them happy, because he doesn't really seem to really, like, I know we all agree that there should be some rotation, but I don't really believe he will rotate or rest anyone, really. I think he'll play the same. I think we'll get the 60-minute same starting 11, I think, for the rest of the season. I think it's quite possible.
Yeah. At least for the next 2 games. Obviously, hard away games. It was a good point made earlier. I think it was Sean said that about these difficult away games. Remember the Aberdeen game, who won 1-0. McGregor hitting 100, and sorry I didn't cover it because it was the weekend of the World Cup final. That's horrible. Away, Aberdeen away, and Hearts away, Rangers away, and Aberdeen away, and none of those have been SO5 covered. So I was just hoping we kind of just get a good, nice, solid game and just actually get a clean sheet in. You can see a bit of stacking potential. Anyway, I'll have like 8 teams out or whatever, so I'm just being incredibly biased there as well. But be good to see is actually hitting maybe 3 or 4 clean sheets out of 5 at the end of the season, and just people, because Joe Hart's so cheap now as well. It's like 20 quid for a limited or something. Like, I know he's not scoring very well, but like it's much harder to pick somebody to play with the Celtic defenders that keeps a clean sheet than it is to pick a Celtic clean sheet. Because I tried it a couple of times, it went even worse than picking the one up. Honestly, so you get a good game or whatever, and Sparta Rotterdam get hammered 4-1, so you get picking knowledge or whatever, and guys doing 80s or whatever, and you go and you look and he's done 25 or something like. So sometimes you're better just kind of sticking with what's easier. This is Celtic cards are not that expensive now. I know everything's come down a bit, but like they're a pretty good value at the moment.
I was thinking about knocking together as well, depending on how some of these auctions go, with some of the new cards that have came out. because of some of the, like Mark Patrick Weber saying earlier, like you do have squad pieces in this squad anyway. But I think knowing the subs that we're going to get every game, once some of the L5s, L15s settle down, you could get a queer Celtic 220 team, I reckon, with O up front and like, even that, maybe a Wata defender card if you know he's going to be off the bench every game, and then like Moy in midfield and maybe Haksabanovic cards or something, You could probably have some good fun in 220 if the bench wins the game once over this period or twice or whatever, Never mind going for like the big divisions that we normally see Celtic cards rocking. You could probably have a proper fun like 220 effort.
You get games like that, don't you, where like you score like 4 goals in the last 30 minutes or whatever, and it's all the subs. Abada does that a lot. Abada comes on and scores 2 goals in the second half. It was smearing away. It was like 1-0, 1 each or something at half time, and Celtic won 5-1. He came on and scored 2, and he get the highest score out of everybody, and didn't even start a game. So sometimes that can be hard as well, because the flip side's like Benfica. Like you just know with Benfica who the guys are going to be that will score the best. Like Grimaldo, Otamendi, João Marios and Pens. Gonçalo Ramos couldn't hit a cow's arse with a banjo since I won his cards, not scored a single goal. So you can pick the guys you know are going to score well, but I think with Celtic sometimes like you get these guys come on at the end and they just get involved in all the decisives and stuff. Turnbull, how many times did Turnbull come on and done 75 for the last 20 minutes?
This game week, in terms of like, you're right, Quinny, those scores, you could easily do a 220 with UK, Ralston, Haksabanovic. You could also do a U23 team pretty well with Celtic this game week.
You could.
With them two are obviously both U23. Well, actually, all of them are still U23, aren't they? Is it O? O is.
I don't know about Ralston.
Ralston's still U23.
Ralston is. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Ralston in UK. O'Reilly in midfield. Jota up front.
That's a good shout.
Yeah, I forgot about Jota. There you go. You could pretty much put the full team with that. You could get a couple of U23 combinations in there, obviously minus the goalkeeper. But
he's only 12 years too old.
Yeah, that's not unusual from the 23 stats side.
A whole stack. That would be brilliant, wouldn't it? But for me, because I've got all Joe Hart's cards. But I think I might do that. I might Kobayashi, Ralston super rares and play O'Reilly and Jota rares in the 23s pro. So I've been doing shite at it anyway. So
it's quite a similar team to what I've got prepared, but it's no for the 23s. That's quite. I never double up in defence, but see for this week, for this Hearts game, I'm tempted to do it with Rio, not Rio, sorry, I beg your pardon, O'Reilly and Jota as the rares, and then can I share this? I can share this. You can share tabs if you want as well, by the way. But I was going to go with that, an All-Star Rare Pro. I was like, I've got some Celtic cards back now. I've got UK, I've got some other options. And that's when I noticed it was like, oh, you could probably be quality under 23 stack out of this as well. So when you brought it up there, the wee light bulb just went right off for me there.
Be a good shout for like a cap 240 or whatever as well. Like you can stack in there. So Hearts averaging about 30 odds or something at the moment. So you could actually get a full cap 240 team out, I think, with Celtic at the moment too. Especially if you pick Furuhashi, because Furuhashi's only averaging
50
odds. So
you Maida's 48.
Yeah. You get a full team out in there, which I quite like. Actually, there's people who say they don't like that, but at the end of the day, you've still got to be under the cap, haven't you? So that's quite an interesting strategy.
I don't mind stacking against caps.
Performances lately from Kyogo and Maeda ruining teams. So
yes,
squeeze them in.
The buggers definitely was a good one.
We're up against our time limit here. So,
yeah. Well, guys, it's been a great one. Thanks everyone that joined us in the chat. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.
One hoops.
One hoops.